back on Channel 2.5 News. We may not be good enough to be Channel 3, but we're sure better than Channel 2. Alright, so this weekend, as you know, was a pretty long weekend, and you know, you just look at your neighborhood and you think, oh, it's a neighborhood, but we found out some new information from, who was that again, Lauren?
Professor Glenn at the prestigious University Liggett School.
And, you know, he gave us some tips and tools to kind of investigate our own, I guess, neighborhood and look at it as an urban ecosystem. So, why don't you cut to that feed, Chuck?
Okay, so we're here in the village near the corner of Notre Dame and Courchevel. Our block is on Courchevel, and it's in between Notre Dame and another street, which I don't know the name of. But we have Coldwater Creek, T-Mobile, and the Loft, and then at the end over there is Trader Joe's. I don't know if you can see it very well.
There's also some other office buildings down there, as well as another clothing store that pretty much completes this block.
And we're doing this block as an urban ecosystem.
Yes, and there's also a traffic light at that end and down here at this end.
And then we have parked cars and several other components of our urban ecosystem, but in order to show you more accurately, we are going to get a closer look. Welcome back. Okay, so now we have taken a closer look. We have crossed the street to observe more in depth the block itself. There's shrubbery, trees that kind of line the block. There's street lights, and also a major source of energy. Of course, the trees produce clean air for the environment, and a lot of pollution that goes out from all the cars that are passing. If you watch, you can see a huge semi behind me. A bench is probably an additional to the normal infrastructure because I'm guessing the bench didn't just grow up out of the ground. So that's another part of the ecosystem. The awnings are additional to the building structure. Alright, as you can tell, there's a lot of noise from all the traffic and everything, so noise level is a huge part of this urban ecosystem. If you look, there's a bus stop, so that's an important part of the ecosystem. And then there's signs that kind of line the buildings. As you can see, the buildings are kind of made out of brick, which is probably an addition that's probably newer than the opposite side of the street, so you can take a glimpse over there just to compare the difference. So, and if you look over here, there's a grate, which is probably where the sewage and the runoff kind of seeps into, which probably prevents too much runoff from going into the street, but it probably still does.
There's also parking meters, which require energy all the time.
Very good point, Lauren. Why don't you take it from here?
Well, there's also different inputs and outputs of energy, such as the little lamps and the actual what goes on inside the building, such as the energy that the buildings are requiring.
Like the T-Mobile signals, I'm sure, use computer signals, output and input, same as phone, because of course they have to have good signals because they're a phone store, so, you know.
As well as cash registers.
I wouldn't describe this area as industrial necessarily in terms of the shops, but I would describe the amount of pollutants equivalent to that of maybe a small industrial area just because of all the cars that pass by. As you'll see later when you look at our data tables, there's a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a mixture of retail, industrial, and also somewhat residential since it's surrounded by houses that you just can't really see right now.
If you look at the ground, it's cement, which probably wasn't there originally.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and there's a fire hydrant.
And a water main.
In a water main. So that would take care of some of the water.
Yes. Our block is a single shrubbery bench, tree, pattern formation, and a track in Michigan. That's just, you know, for waste and everything like that. We have a flagpole, which I'm sure is a very important part of the urban ecosystem.
There's also a lot of pedestrian traffic, as you may have noticed. There's a lot of, even though it's not on this block, there's a lot of food places around and we can smell the food being made.
Burger Pointe. Yeah, it smells really good. I'm really hungry.
Over there.
Alright, you can't really smell much from the clothing stores, Which just guess is a probably good thing, because if the clothing store smelled, then you probably wouldn't want to buy clothes from there.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's also a lot of sun out today.
On the shady edge of the block, I guess, the way that the sun's hitting and the kind of shade that you get from the buildings. But it is really bright out, and it's really windy. Really windy and freezing. So I don't know if it's always like that, but of course we live in Michigan. But I mean, it's something to consider that this block may be more cold than the other side because of the way the sun hits it during the day. Yeah, I'd say the road is one of the major energy pathways, but I think that like in terms of traffic, might like stop signs and everything like that might kind of stop the energy in certain areas rather than others, like a break almost. And then definitely the street lamps are going to create a lot of energy because the whole block is just lighting up. And then there's lamps on the building too, as Laura mentioned previously. So just, you know, I would define that as a energy pathway because a lot of energy travels through that. And not just that kind of energy, but with the pedestrians, definitely a kinetic energy, you know, created by that, especially. And then the shrubberies, and of course the trees are dead right now, but they're still pulling that energy up from the ground, you know, through the roots and everything like that. So.
And there's also a clock over there too that hopefully doesn't use too much energy, but it's going all the time.
And the cars that are passing by, of course, release a lot of exhaust from the exhaust pipes. Of course, you can't see it right now, but you can definitely kind of smell it at certain times with the gasoline that they're getting off after using it.
I hope you enjoyed that little clip of us investigating that urban ecosystem, as it were, and we really hope that those findings, those intense findings, because you know we're a hard-hitting news group, really enlighten you. And you know, maybe as you go out this weekend or even tomorrow, this afternoon, who knows, you'll investigate your own urban ecosystem, you know?
We hope we've given you enough knowledge to make your own decisions about the ecosystems, and maybe you'll even be a little greener. Thank you.